So, where do I begin? I'm clairaudient. And I just realized this within the last year or so of my life. It's not something that I was really aware of or consciously trying to be. Like, it's not a gift that I was trying to have. It just kind of developed over the years. And yeah, so let me just go ahead and get into it. So, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Sakina. I am your eco-friendly hostess with the mostest. My channel is all about living a sustainable life in the most luxurious way possible. And I sprinkle a little spirituality here and there, just because that's a big part of my life. And I kind of want to take y'all on that journey with me and include that in my content. So I was inspired to share my journey to realization that I am actually clairaudient and how God actually gave me this gift. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. So I do want to share that this started about 3 years ago. That's the earliest that I can find evidence that I was actually experiencing this. And what I did is I went and I looked at my old journals. I journal a lot. I've always had a journal ever since I was a little girl. And I would always write about my feelings, things that were going on in my life, things that I would normally not tell everyday people, my parents, no one, friends. My journal is where I would put that stuff. And so right now, because of my living situation, I only have journals back to 2021, I believe. Maybe 20, I don't think 2020 was in that journal. But I was able to go back in the journals that I have. The other ones I have are in my storage, so I was not able to go back in those. And I might have some revelations in that. But I really think that it did start about 3 years ago. And that's when I have the first evidence, like I said, of me journaling about what I was hearing during my sleep. And that's when I first began hearing things, is during my sleep state. And what I would do is when I heard these voices, because the messages that were coming through were so strong and so clear, I knew that it wasn't me. And I knew that a lot of the stuff that was being said is not something that I would ever say. And so I would wake up and I would write what I heard down. Or the next day when I did wake up, that's when I began writing down some of the stuff that I heard, just to kind of document it, because I didn't know what it was related to necessarily, or it was just out of the ordinary. So I wanted to make sure that I documented it so that I could go back and reference it like I am now. Some of the messages that I get, some are interesting, some are scary. And so in this video, I want to kind of talk to you about like my experience with clairaudience and how God has developed this gift to me and revealed that it is a gift, and also just my experience with it, because it's not something, I think a lot of people who are into the clairs, there's different, I think there's 4. And this is not the kind of video, like if you're looking for a video to teach you about how to develop your spiritual gifts and how to become more clairaudient and more clairvoyant and all those kind of things, this is not the video for you, because this is not something that I consciously attempted to do. I might have told God at one point, I'm not gonna lie, I might have told God at one point that, I would be curious and interested to see if I could, experience these types of things. Because back in the day, I used to listen to Abraham Hicks a lot. I don't listen to her as much, but I do sometimes occasionally. But I don't really feel like her message resonates with me so much, as I've really gone down the path of following the teachings of Christ. I don't like to call myself a Christian because I don't know. I don't like labels. I've always seen myself as spiritual, but the spiritual teacher that I follow is Christ. I do go to a Christian Bible-based church as well, and I've been developing that. And I've seen pronounced increases in my spiritual gifts since I've started down that path. But I know that at one point in my life, I was really into Abraham Hicks. And if you are not familiar with Abraham Hicks is a medium. She's a spiritual medium. She is able to, I guess, download messages from spirit guides, and she's able to verbally express those messages to us here on the earth plane in the 3D. And that's not necessarily what my gift is, but I think at one point during that time, I thought how cool it would be if I, was able to do something like that. But at the same time, that kind of thing kind of freaks me out. The idea of like an entity entering your body and taking over your faculties. That is not something that I've wanted. So just to be clear, this is not that kind of video. If you are a Christian and if you are a follower of Christ, so am I. God does give us gifts, and that's kind of what I want to say in this video. I am experimenting with this lavalier as well, so you guys bear with me. I was hoping that it would improve the sound quality of my videos, so that's why I have the mic on. So if I touch it or anything and it makes any weird sounds, I do apologize. This is my first time filming with the mic. But let's go ahead and get into what is clairaudience. So as I already mentioned, there are 4 clairs. I'm not going to go into them because I don't study this stuff. This is not something that I study. This is just something that I have. And I'm expressing my experience with it with you. So some things that if you go on YouTube, and I've looked up videos on YouTube and how people explain it, and some people are on the money and some people are not. And as someone who actually has this gift, and I didn't consciously, purposely seek to build this gift or to develop this gift, I can see the flaws in their definitions and what they think it is, and as compared to what I experience just naturally. So clairaudience is literal meaning is clear hearing. Clair means clear and audience is to hear. So it means clear hearing. And if you go online, the definitions will vary, but basically it is the ability to hear things, perhaps messages, voices from the spirit realm. They are often told to you through spirit guides, and you hear it internally. So sometimes it does sound like, well, for me, I'll say this because I don't know anyone else's experience with clairaudient. For me, what I do is it's kind of like having voices in your head. And that sounds really scary. And trust me, it is very scary for me sometimes too, because I literally thought I was going crazy. I don't have any like mental issues that I'm aware of. I've never gone to a therapist for this issue. I have seen a therapist for just mental health issues, like as far as stress related to work and things like that. I wanted to make sure that what I was experiencing was not abnormal or that I wasn't crazy in that regard, but I've never told a therapist about my ability to hear voices. And I say that because if you look up like something like schizophrenia is literally when people hear voices that are in their head. And what I experience is very similar to that. The only thing that I know that makes us different is what happens when I hear the voices afterwards. So a lot of times the voices are guiding me. They can be prophetic, as in like they precede an event that's going to happen, and it involves the message that I was told that night or, in my sleep, and it plays out the next day. So that's how I know I'm not crazy. I'm like, okay, so this is something different, what I'm experiencing. And it doesn't happen all day. It's not like I'm sitting around and I'm just hearing people talking in my head. It's nothing like that. It's just typically for me, it happens at night. The majority of it happens at night when I'm asleep. And it happens particularly when I'm in between deep sleep and waking state. So right before I get into that deep sleep, I think that's called, I'm forgetting the word. I'll pop it up on the screen here. But right before I get really into that, that's when I start to hear the most voices. So if I lay down on my pillow and as I start to drift off to sleep, I'll start to hear the voices and messages. And what has really become very important for me is learning to discern. So I've been asking God, help me discern between the enemy and you, because I don't want to be following voices and getting paranoid about voices that are not from you. So that is what I've been experiencing. So before we get deeper into some of the messages and things that I've heard, some of the cool things that the premonitions and prophetic messages that I've received, let's start back when it first started happening. So back in 2021, I believe, we're in 2024 now, so 3 years ago, I stumbled upon my journal and I forgot it. I had it, I was gonna use it for this video, but I totally forgot it. But I have my main journal. And I was like going through all my journals to try to find out like when it's, like I was actually looking for this one particular thing that I'm gonna talk about in another video. So stay tuned for that. It is related to all of this clairaudience, but I was looking for something related to that. And I was like, when did that first happen to me? Like, when was the last time that really happened to me very strongly? And it was back in 2021. I had a lot of these different spiritual attacks happening, and a lot of them happened during my sleep. And that's when I came up on, like, I noticed in that journal, I was like, oh, I didn't realize I was having the voices in my head that far back. And I was writing down the messages that I heard, and I was experiencing a lot. And it just reminded me exactly why I moved back in with my parents, so that I could kind of get my mental health together and just my physical health, everything. The stress in my life was just not good at that time. And just reading back on that time, it just made me realize, well, I had a lot going on. I had a lot going on. And being with my family has helped me be able to ground myself and not get too just not get too stressed with the world out there, because God has been working on me. God has been transforming me, and I appreciate all that God has done in my life. I'm not the same person that I was 5 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago, and that is one of the reasons why my gift has increased. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to show y'all my current journal. This is my current journal, and these are just all the little markers because, like I said, I do get a lot of messages. And so what I started doing, and I went through a couple of my other older journals, and I went through and marked stuff, is God, there have been promises that God has given me, and there are things that have been, I guess you could say, prophesied or prophecy to me for my life and my life journey, yet things that never played out. Now, so I never really understood what was happening and what the voices were, like, were they just like, whether this to cause me confusion. And like I said, with this gift, I've had to increase my discernment. Like, I can tell the difference between God's voice and the enemy's voice. The enemy's voice, and I have a list that I carry around just to remind me. And I'm going to read that to you guys because I think that'll be helpful for you in your journey. So I basically found this on the internet, and it helps me whenever I am trying to discern between God's voice and the enemy's voice. And so I wrote it down. I keep it with me in my purse anytime that I'm still wondering, like, is this from the devil or is this from God? Like, so I'm going to read this to you, and then we're going to get back into my clairaudience experience. So God's voice stills you, leads you, reassures you, enlightens you, encourages you, comforts you, calms you, convicts you. God is never early and he is never late. He is always right on time, and his plans for you are good. Now, Satan's voice will rush you, pushes you, frightens you, confuses you, discourages you, worries you, obsesses you, and condemns you. And so knowing this, remembering these things about the difference between God's voice and Satan's voice helps me discern the messages, the voices that I hear in my head, because sometimes the voices are scary voices. They are scary things. They're threatening. Sometimes they are discouraging. And I know whenever it's like something negative and it's discouraging me, that I know for sure it's not me, because my self-talk is really good. Like, I have a really healthy relationship with myself. Like, I love myself. I don't beat myself up. I don't call myself stupid when I get something wrong. I don't call myself fat when I gain weight. I don't call myself ugly when I'm not feeling my best. I don't talk down to myself. I genuinely have a really good relationship with myself now. So I can always tell if a voice that I hear is negative in that effect, that is not from me. It's something else, some other entity, some other spirit that is trying to tap in and basically kill what God has done so hard to build up in me. It's sad to say, like, saying that out loud makes me want to cry, but you guys, I hear those types of messages sometimes. It's not super frequent, and I can cut it off really quickly, but I do hear those messages. But I do want to, so this is my current journal. This one starts back in, I started writing in this one in May. This is the new one that I started in May. I really wish I would have brought my other ones, because I had so much good stuff in there, but I guess God didn't want me going that far back and sharing it. It is what it is. We're going to have to get into it. So I just want to share with you guys a couple of things that I've received in the past year since May of 2023. So many messages every single night. And it gets like, I'm just reading through like everything, and how, like, this is my journal, right? So I write normal in the first person, and then whenever I have a message, I'll write that in quotation marks so that I know it was a voice, that it wasn't from me. And then just reading back on some of these is like, I've been hearing some messages like every night, hearing so many things. Sometimes it'll happen like around, it started really getting increasing in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, it started really increasing. And I was freaking out because I've never experienced anything like that before, the intensity of it and how it's always so many. And I would tell God, I don't want to hear these voices anymore. And they would stop for a couple of days. And then I'd be bored. I'm like, okay, I kind of want to know something more. So, talk to me tonight. And then I would hear the voices. And now I'm gotten to a point where I'm so comfortable with them that I ask questions. I can ask questions in that semi-sleep state. So I'll be asleep and then I'll start hearing the voices and then I'll be like, okay, so what does that mean? Like, not out loud verbally. I don't think I talk in my sleep. I might, who knows? But like, I'll ask that in my head to the voices. And sometimes I'll get an answer. Ooh, sorry. I got a really good answer. Was it last night or the night before? Oh my God, let me see. I don't know if I can share it with you guys. That's the thing. Like, some of this stuff is so private that I don't really want to share the exact message. Oh my God. No, I'm not sharing it. I can't share it. Okay, so it's really difficult to look through this journal and try to find something that I can share with you guys because some of it is so personal and I don't really want to share that with you just yet. God has not given me the green light. In fact, God has told me to pause creating videos on certain topics. And let me read the message. No, I'm not going to read the message. I'm sorry. I'm not going to read the message. See, it's so difficult because the thing about this is that it is so personal. It's so personal that I don't feel comfortable sharing it with people just yet, unless God has told me that it's safe to share. I do think at some point God will allow me to share this information, but it's just not time for me to share this portion of my life. But I did find one that I'll read to you guys because I think I can give you an explanation of what the messages meant. This happened in July of last year. I wrote, last night I heard so many messages, too many to remember, but I'll write down a few. Checkmate, memory, cell phone, they're watching you. And the following night I heard, you made someone mad. Someone went overboard. That was the last straw. She loves him. She tolerates you. And I know what that one was related to. It was related to a work situation. And I think at the time, I wasn't I think what that revealed to me at that time was that this particular person didn't really like me that much, but they tolerated me because I was so good at what I do. And that has now shifted and changed a lot. So that's why I felt comfortable sharing it. But it's really crazy looking back at some of these messages. One thing that I can share that is also written down here is back in October of last year, I learned about the window of tolerance. And that is something that I think psychologists use to determine, your anxiety levels and your stress hormones in your nervous system, like your ability to withstand stress levels. And my window of tolerance right now is not very high, just because I have shifted more into my feminine side. And when you're in your feminine energy, majority of the time, it puts a lot of strain on your body when you try to shift into the hustle culture that is modern society today. At one point in time, though, and that's why I'm talking about it, because at one point in time, that was my life, and I did it all the time, and it was so easy for me, but it did wear on me, and I started to get burnt out, and I knew that I needed to make a change, and I started my femininity journey about 5 years ago, and I have evolved so much so, and God has worked on softening me. I actually have written down in some of my journals, I don't think it's this one, I think it's the one prior to this one, where God literally said, I'm softening you. And basically just letting me know what you're experiencing is me pruning you and putting you through the test and just continuing to build you up to break you down, build you up to break you down. those were not his words. That's how I'm describing it. His words were, I'm softening you, meaning you're too hard right now. You're not the woman that I want you to be. I'm softening you into the woman that I need you to be. And that has been something that God's been working on me. So ladies, if you're on your femininity journey and you are a follower of Christ and you're a follower of God, God will, communicate with God, talk to God. If you talk to God and you tell him you want to hear from him, I'm sure he will open up a pathway. But God did tell me that this was a spiritual gift. And that's why I wanted to make the video, because I feel like there's other sisters in Christ out there who might be desiring a closer relationship with God and wondering, and people who might be on the fence about Christianity or on the fence about having a relationship with God in general. Like, is God real? God is definitely real, and God can talk. You can literally hear God's voice. You can literally hear him tell you things. And I experienced that. Not everyone experiences that, but I do. And God has told me things from pay attention to your family. Like one time I was doing some visualization, which God does not like me to do visualization anymore. He hates it. Whenever I do visualization now, it messes up my energy and it messes up things. And so I stopped doing it altogether because I was having some freaky experiences. I'm at a level in my consciousness and in my vibration level is pretty high typically. So I manifest things very quickly. But I was doing some manifestation. I had been reading Neville Goddard work, which I still read his work because a lot of it he bases off of the Bible. And I like to see his interpretation of the Bible because I do believe that the Bible can be interpreted in many different ways. But I was reading Neville Goddard and I tried this visualization technique, and I took a nap after doing that. And what happened was, when I woke up from the nap, right as I woke up, I heard this loud voice. It was like God was yelling at me, pay attention to your family. And I've talked about this in other videos. I'll link this one particular video below. It's about my 7 top spiritual books. But Joe Dispenza talks about, how to rewire your brain. And there's this really good diagram that he has in his book where it shows you living in the now. Like if you've never read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, I highly recommend that book as well. But living in the now moment, you're not thinking about the future and you're not thinking about the past. And what happens when you when you're thinking, your mind is energy and your energy flows where your attention goes. So if you're constantly thinking about something that happened in the past, constantly thinking about past things, or constantly trying to create the future, constantly thinking about the future and visualizing the future, and you're never living in the moment, all of your energy is in the future or it's in the past. And what Joe Dispenza teaches is he talks about collapsing time, and how you collapse time is being present in the now moment. And I've gotten so good at being present in the now moment that my timelines are shifting very, 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 very quickly. And you pull all of that energy back, because whether you believe in quantum physics or not, it exists. But there are multiple realities happening. So when you're putting your energy and your thoughts in other places that are not the present moment, you're giving your power away. And so this process has taught me about that. And I've got kind of totally off topic, but I learned about the window of tolerance. I got so far off topic. But the window of tolerance is where you're in a healthy level of stress, of being able to maintain and manage the stress. But once you go outside that window, you will start to get irritable, you'll start to burn out, and you can start to have really serious neurological problems. And it was a time last year around from October to December, I was really trying to do this important thing in my life, and it was just not working out. And I realized I was doing too much. I realized I surrendered. I was like, you know what? This is God's way. This is my body's way of telling me I'm not ready to do this thing yet, because the amount of stress that I'm feeling in this moment it feels forced, and I don't work out of force anymore. And it was really hard for me at that time, because it's something that I considered normal. It's something that I had done many, many, many times in the past. And all of a sudden it became so hard to do. And I could not comprehend why I was not able to do something that I normally am able to do. And I realized it's just because God has turned me into a different person. I'm not the same strong, independent, masculine, driven woman that I used to be. I'm driven. I have goals. However, I do it in a different way. I flow. I have to go with God's flow, because if I step out God will put me back in line. Like the other day, I was actually working on some YouTube content of all things, like something that gives me joy. This gives me so much joy, and I'm going to take this to God tonight, and I'm going to ask God, for permission to post this video. But I was working on some content for YouTube, and God told me not to do it, pretty much. God told me not to do it. I heard literally. So, I told y'all that I get messages at night. So I get messages mainly at night, but sometimes during the daytime, I'll get downloads and I'll hear them. So as I was working on this particular thing, I heard premature. I was like, what? What are you talking about? Premature. And then when I went to sleep, that's when I got the message, you will be forced to surrender. So whatever God is working on in my life right now, he's made it very clear to me that this thing is happening and there's nothing that I can do that is going to sabotage it.
I want to introduce my shadow work journaling templates. This digital download is perfect for those looking to go deeper in their own self-discovery. With this kit, you'll learn how to discover the shadow aspects of your own personality. It includes 5+ reusable journaling prompts for deeper self-discovery and healing. And what I love about this journal is that it's 100% printable, so you can build a journal at your own pace or as you need. I personally use these when I'm going through a challenging time and I want to identify the root causes of my triggers. If you're looking for something that's going to aid you with your inner work, these shadow work templates are the perfect tool. You can find this product in my Etsy store. I will leave the link down below in the description box. And now, back to the video.
And God, I want you to know, I'm not trying to sabotage anything, but I feel like, look, I'm having a heart-to-heart with God right now because this is how I talk to God. Because let me tell you, I'll be doing something that is normal for me to do. This is a normal activity that Sakina does every day. And then all of a sudden, it's off limits. No, you can't do this thing anymore. Or no, you can't do this. No, be still. And I'm just like, it drives me nuts. And I've tried to step out on my own and do things on my own. And God will, like I said, I took that nap, I woke back up. Like as I was waking up, I heard, you will be forced to surrender. And I was like, oh God, great. Now I'm in trouble. And it's just an ongoing thing. And it's annoying, but it's also comforting because it's like, whatever it is, I've already surrendered. I've already told God that he's in control and his will is my will. It's just when you don't know what's happening, you don't know the rules. It's not like God has never said you can't do this, and this. There are the commandments in the Bible, and then there are things in the Bible. You read the stories of the Bible and you read about how he wants his women to be. You are Jesus's bride, especially if you're a single woman, you're Jesus's bride. So there's a way that you're supposed to be in the time of waiting season. And there's things that are not laid out. It doesn't say don't make YouTube videos, in the Bible. But God told me that it was premature. And he also told me that you think what you're doing is good, but I'm not going to finish the statement. The sentence goes on, but that's what was told to me, and it was revealed to me that it's not time. So there's going to be some videos that I film that I'm probably going to have them hidden on YouTube until God lets me release it, until God says, okay, now you can do it. So if you don't see this video until 2025, I do apologize. Kidding. This one, I don't think this topic is off limits. There's specific topics God has tried to steer me away from. I think I was interpreting that correctly. God, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure you are. You will anyways. But this topic is completely on. I think it's something it's safe to talk about, especially because I'm honoring God and my relationship with God, and I want people to have a relationship with God as well.